Ricky Tiedemann has reported to Toronto Blue Jays camp and has gotten a lot of praise from those around the team, as well as the fourth outfield position. It's been well documented that the Jays want to fill that position, and reports have been led to believe that they will fill that position soon enough. So we'll break that down and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, before we get into anything today on this episode, we want to give a huge shout out to John Schneider, who saved someone's life at a restaurant yesterday while he was eating dinner with his wife. So that's guy is just awesome, a great human being, and we should sing his praises because he did a great thing yesterday and saved someone's life that cannot be understated.
Yeah, and we'll cover more of exactly what happened in a couple minutes here. But yeah, it's great to see that, and also it's great to see that you guys crushed the subscribe button after yesterday's video. We gained tons of subscribers in that video. We're very close to 6,200, so make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And let's just get right into the first topic, which is Ricky Tiedemann impressing at camp. So he officially reported, I believe it was yesterday they officially reported, either way, footage released recently about him pitching. So this is the first thing. We don't have the footage for you today. You can go look at that on Caitlin McGraw's Twitter, but essentially what she says is catching up on sharing some videos from yesterday. Here's Blue Jays top prospect Ricky Tiedemann throwing to Danny Jansen with Alek Manoah looking on, and there was a little article written up, I believe, by her discussing exactly what the feeling is around camp regarding Ricky Tiedemann, saying both Jansen and Manoah were aware of Tiedemann's potential, but Friday was the first time either had seen the left-hander pitch live. Both described his 3+ pitches as, quote, electric. And they wanted to say that the fastball comes out hot and doesn't seem to be really straight, which is a good thing. It's got some ride. It's got some run on it, Jansen said. Adding that he was hitting around 96 to 97 miles per hour in the radar gun. The action was great. His changeup, you could tell, was a pitch he's always had. It's a good field pitch for him. Then his slider is the same thing. It's a good pitch. Peter, I'll let you take over here for a second now. What are your thoughts on this? This is very, very encouraging. And it makes me almost, not upset, but it almost makes me jealous of the fact that AAA will get to see him pitch for a while before us Jays fans get to, see him at the Rogers Center.
Hey, well, that's not a bad thing. Let him develop a little bit more and get his confidence up a little bit more in the lower levels. If he will dominate AAA, I have no doubt about it. And I think he's a prime candidate to be called up mid-season, similar to what happened to Alek Manoah in 2020 when he came up and just set the world on fire with his start in Yankee Stadium and just showed the Jays fan base who he really is. I think Ricky Tiedemann has a chance to do that, although I don't think his innings are quite there yet. I don't think he's going to be ready to be a starter at the major league level because he threw, I think, 70-ish innings last year, and then they shut him down. So I don't expect too much of a bump up this year. He'll probably get a couple starts here and there in AAA just to see how he's doing, and then they'll go from there. But I don't expect too much at the major league level, but he's definitely got the stuff. We know it's electric.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see that. This spring training are probably the best look we get at him until maybe if he gets called up in September. Unless a bunch of injuries happen, which honestly, hopefully doesn't really happen. We need him to get built up, and hopefully we don't have another, I saw some tweets about it saying the Nate Pearson situation, or maybe he wasn't built up enough, ended up getting tons of injuries. We don't really want that same thing to happen. Obviously, Manoah came up and dominated, but you can't really use that as the rule. You can use that as more so the exception. So continue to see him, Tiedemann, grow, and it's exciting to see. And a couple last things here. This is from Chris Black, and you've spoken about him a lot. We've spoken about him. Great analyst there. He's saying there's no better confirmation to us all, or all of us internet folks, that this kid has legit stuff other than the crowd growing and gathered behind him for this throwing session. When I saw that, I didn't even have to watch the video, and he is referring to this. I'll pop it up one more time. You can kind of see there everyone gathered around, not just Danny Jansen and Manoah, tons of coaches, tons of other players, and we also have Brendan Delaney saying he's special, which I think will ultimately be the case. But I don't know. I'm just super excited, and you should go check out the video if you want to go have a look on it, but his pitches look great, and I'm just excited to see his hopefully first game in spring training, hopefully soon, and maybe against a fun team.
And we got to remember one more thing here, that we don't want to rush him along. He's 20 years old, and pitchers take a little bit more time unless they're like generational talents like Steven Strasburg or Clayton Kershaw, who came up pretty early as well. So you want to give him time, and if we do compare him to Alek Manoah here, Manoah came up when he was 23 years old in that year. Was it 23 or 22?
Either way.
I'm not quite sure, but yeah, something around there. Now he's entering his age 25 season, and he's he's entering his prime years, and he was ready. He was not rushed to the major leagues, and the Jays should do the same thing with Ricky Tiedemann. You know, you have good starting pitching depth. You want to fill that fifth spot with this young, promising rookie who throws gas, who's got plus pitches, but you also don't want to rush him too far along because you want him to be the anchor of that rotation for the next 10 years, not just for this year. So you got to take it day by day with Ricky Tiedemann, and I'm just excited to see how he progresses over the course of the season in AAA.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see how he does in spring training, which we'll be covering. But moving on now, let us know what your thoughts are on that, which is something we touched on in the intro. John Schneider saved a life today, and this was a very feel-good story. We'll touch on it quickly. I'm sure you guys have seen it on Twitter. If you haven't, it's very good, so we'll pop it up here now. Manager John Schneider was out to lunch with his wife when a woman at another table was choking and couldn't breathe. Schneider rushed to her aid, performed the Heimlich maneuver, and saved her. Just another day in the life. And here are some more details about it. John Schneider spoke on it and said he learned the Heimlich maneuver back in the 6th grade, which came in handy yesterday when he saved a woman from choking on shrimp at a Dunedin restaurant. His reward was a free beer. I was a little bit rattled afterwards, so the beer did come in handy. And basically a couple of Heimlichs and she was all good, John Schneider says. So we touched on it a bit in the intro, but that's, some more of the details about it. But great, seems like a great person, great coach, great manager. Couldn't be happier to have him as the the manager of the Jays for the next 3+ years.
Yeah, absolutely. He's always smiling, but he is intense, and he just seems like a great guy. One of those guys that you just want to walk up to him and just give him a big old hug. Like, come here, John Schneider. Let me give you that hug, baby. And he's an awesome dude. He knows the players so well. He grew up with them through the minor leagues, and it shows on and off the field. He's just a class A+ individual, and could not be happier for him being the manager of the Blue Jays. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's phenomenal and a phenomenal deed. And it was something that we were all, most Jays fans were excited or happy to see when you woke up, as this was kind of the big thing. You can see his tweet almost got 5,000 likes. So this is trending, past the baseball world into obviously, the rest of the world globally. So it's exciting to see. Shout out to John Snyder, and I'm glad that woman is okay. But let's move on now to the third and final topic of the video, which is regarding the fourth outfielder. And this dropped very, very recently, I believe only a couple hours ago. And basically a tweet came out from someone who is within the camp, Scott Mitchell, saying, 4 hours ago, saying definitely a sense around the Blue Jays camp that another outfielder bat would kind of round this roster out, but not much out there now unless it's a trade. Whit Merrifield, Cavan Biggio are essentially competing for additional at-bats out there, but matchups will likely dictate that. And then this was also from Lewis yesterday, saying Merrifield being the current fourth outfielder is pretty good, but when Kevin Kiermaier gets injured, do they trust Nathan Lukes enough to start games out in left field? I'm guessing they do. He had a .364 on-base percentage in AAA with 20 steals. That'll play. And obviously we've covered this fourth outfielder thing a lot because that's kind of the main news right now. But do you have any other thoughts on what they think they're going to do, or maybe any other options that happen to be available now? Or do you think they ultimately wait until the trade deadline and see how the health in the roster is playing out and go with internal options like Nathan Lukes and Whit Merrifield platoon?
Lewis, I love you, man, but I don't think we can trust Nathan Lukes to be that fourth outfielder. And considering the injury history of the Toronto Blue Jays outfield, like George Springer and Kevin Kiermaier, look at Raimel Tapia last year, Nick. You covered it in the video in which you announced the Robbie Grossman signing. He had to play a lot more than the Jays wanted to, and I'm not comparing the two, Nathan Lukes and Raimel Tapia, but let's use Cavan Biggio as an example. He tore up AAA. He hit very well over there. He had an on-base percentage close to 400, and then he comes to the majors and, he's not the same player. So you can't take that sample size that you see in the minor leagues. At least for Lukes, he's been a career minor leaguer, and that's probably for a reason. It's just, I don't know if it'll translate to the majors. He's probably good depth to have, but to have to rely on him if someone goes down, and they probably will go down, it's a little bit scary for me as a Jays fan. So I rather go with an internal option like Merrifield or probably a Cavan Biggio, or even try to trade for someone at this point. I would not rely on a minor leaguer.
Yeah, and the thing that was kind of trending around Twitter, and I think the ultimate thought is that maybe you give Lukes a chance only against right-handed pitching for the start of the year and just see how he does. But at that point, where does Cavan Biggio really fit in? Because if you're giving someone like Nathan Lukes, obviously, an outfielder, ideally would be better at defense than Cavan Biggio in outfield. But I don't know. Cavan Biggio's at-bats, then what's the point of even having him on the team? Could you look to then flip Biggio
Exactly.
for an outfielder who may not be as more proven essentially than Nathan Lukes would be. So it's a very weird thing. If Nathan Lukes was a right-handed hitter who mashes lefties, I could see the fit there. But even then, like you said, he is a career minor leaguer, Nathan Lukes, that
Yeah.
is, and it's very interesting. The fit just doesn't really seem there to me. That being said, he does steal bases, he does get on base, so maybe I think the only chance that he gets a lot of at bats is if he outcompetes Kevin Biggio ultimately for the spot.
Yeah, I think the best way that the Jays are going to go about it here is they have 3 second basemen, and I'm sure Santiago Espinal can get some reps out there in the outfield,
Definitely.
and he hits lefties very well, right? So if you can get him to figure out left field, and he looked okay in some stints over there when the Jays had to put him in those 4 outfield alignments, he looked fine, comfortable out there. So if you can get him used to the outfield, obviously we know Whit Merrifield played a little bit of outfield every now and then for the Royals and even for the Jays when George Springer was down. So if you have those two that can play the outfield and Biggio, then you got that fourth outfield spot covered. You don't necessarily need to make a trade or need to trade any of your major league ready players for another guy. So I think they got it covered with their second base depth, and they don't necessarily need to rely on a minor leaguer right now.
Yeah, I agree, and we'll see what happens. Maybe Nathan Lukes only gets at bats if there's some major injuries, which is kind of what's going to happen. You'd expect there's going to be some injury to our outfield at some point, but maybe no injuries happen and we end up being good all the way. But let us know what your thoughts are. That'll wrap up this video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're very close to 7K. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks.